The Last Flight of Captain Reynolds. Captain Daniel Reynolds sat in the cockpit of Flight 417, staring at the horizon as the sun dipped below the clouds. He had flown this road dozens of times before, but tonight was different. This was his last flight before retirement. 40 years in the air, thousands of flights, millions of miles. He had seen it all. "Ready for departure, Captain?" First Officer Mark Hayes asked, his young voice filled with excitement. Reynolds nodded, flipping the last few switches. "Let's take her up one last time, Mark." The engines roared as the Boeing 787 accelerated down the runway. With a gentle pull on the yoke, Reynolds felt the familiar rush of ascent. The city lights shrank below, replaced by an endless stretch of stars. He took a deep breath. He would miss this. The sky, the freedom, the thrill of flight. A legacy in the air. Reynolds had dreamed of flying since he was a boy, watching jets carve trails through the sky. He joined the Air Force at 22, then transitioned to commercial aviation. Over 4 decades, he had seen the world change. From analog cockpits to digital screens, from nervous passengers to those lost in their smartphones. But one thing never changed: the responsibility of guiding hundreds of lives safely through the sky. "You ever think about retirement, Captain?" Mark asked, adjusting their heading. "Not until now," Reynolds admitted. "It's strange, really. Flying has been my whole life." Mark grinned. "Maybe you'll miss it so much you'll come back." Reynolds chuckled. "I think my wife would kill me." The unexpected crisis. 2 hours into the flight, cruising at 35,000 feet over the Atlantic, the first sign of trouble came. A sharp jolt rocked the aircraft. "That wasn't turbulence," Reynolds muttered. The warning lights flickered on. A systems failure message flashed across the screen. "Captain, we're losing cabin pressure," Mark exclaimed. Reynolds didn't hesitate. "Deploy masks, initiate emergency descent." Oxygen masks dropped as the aircraft shuddered. Reynolds fought against the sinking feeling in his stomach. One wrong move at this altitude could be catastrophic. "Mayday, mayday," he called into the radio. "This is Flight 417, experiencing rapid decompression. Request immediate descent and emergency landing clearance. A race against time." The control tower responded swiftly, directing them toward a nearby airport in the Azores. But then, another jolt. "Engine 1 is failing," Mark shouted. Reynolds gritted his teeth. The plane was losing altitude too fast. He knew they had only minutes to act. "Shutting down the engine," he said, his hands moving instinctively. "We'll fly on 1. The aircraft groaned, but it held steady. Reynolds' mind raced through every scenario. He had trained for emergencies, but experience had taught him one truth: no 2 crises were the same. "Prepare the passengers for an emergency landing," he instructed. The final descent. The runway lights appeared on the horizon, a beacon of hope. The tower relayed wind speeds and clearance. They had one shot at this. "Landing gear down," Mark confirmed. Reynolds tightened his grip. The plane trembled, fighting the loss of power. "Stay with me, girl," he murmured. With precision honed over 40 years, Reynolds guided the aircraft toward the ground. The wheels screeched as they made contact, the plane skidding but staying upright. The cabin erupted in cheers as they came to a full stop. Reynolds exhaled deeply. His last flight had been the most challenging of his career. A captain's farewell. As the passengers disembarked safely, Reynolds received a handshake from the chief flight attendant. "Captain, you saved us all," she said, eyes glistening. Mark clapped him on the back. "You sure you still want to retire?" Reynolds looked at the sky, then smiled. "Yeah, I think I've earned it." And with that, Captain Daniel Reynolds walked away from the cockpit one last time, knowing he had left behind a legacy in the clouds.